Hello, everyone, and thanks for turning back into the Planning Perspectives podcast. I'm Jamie Hopkins, joined by my co-host, Kate Duffy. Kate, thanks for joining today.
Hi, Jamie. How's it going?
Things are going great today. So I'm super excited about a very special guest on the show today, right? It's my pleasure to welcome the Chairman, President, and CEO of WSFS Financial Corporation, Mr. Rodger Levenson. Rodger, thank you for joining us here today. I know you've had a super busy day, but super excited to chat and hear a little bit about your story.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Well, Rodger, take us back a little bit to the beginning of your career and walk us through this journey that you've had. It's been a very interesting journey from a couple different roles. And how did you end up here as CEO of WSFS?
Sure. So I'll go back to when I graduated college in the early 80s. There was a number of banks in Philadelphia that had wholesale banking training programs, basically opportunities for recent college graduates to come into the banks, get several years of on-the-job training throughout the various areas of the bank, combined with some classroom training, and then kind of set you on your way, primarily to be in the commercial lending space. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts, I did not get accepted into any of those programs. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I started as a sort of a junior credit analyst at a construction equipment financing firm for a couple of years. And then I actually saw an ad in the paper for one of the banks. At that point, it was a Philadelphia National Bank, for a credit analyst. So not in the training program, but a credit analyst. And I decided to apply for that, figuring if I got into the organization and had the opportunity to show myself, maybe that could lead to good things. So I did that. And this was in 1986 by that point. And very fortunate that within a short period of time, I was asked to join their training program, which I did. And it really was the foundational part of, my career, just working with a terrific group of people, learning a lot, developing a peer network. And that led to a 17-year career as a commercial lender through what became Core States and then ultimately First Union and Wachovia, when I left in 2003. A great experience, great career. Company obviously got acquired in the middle of that, hence the name changes. And just made a decision at that point in my life that the really big bank thing wasn't for me, and that I wanted to find something smaller, much more locally focused, that could leverage my skill set and align with what I wanted to do in the banking space. And so that led to the departure from Wachovia. Spent a couple of years in between joining WSFS at Citizens Bank, working with some people I had worked with at Core States. But I joined WSFS in 2006, November 2006, as the head of commercial lending. WSFS, well-known name in Delaware, relatively small bank at that point in time, but had the opportunity to meet the incoming CEO, Mark Turner, who'd been at the company for a while, as well as the existing CEO, Skip Shaneholz. Became very impressed. Felt this was a great opportunity to come into a senior level role with a new CEO coming in, building, his team, and kind of would just see where it would go. Actually moved out of Center City, Philadelphia. We moved down to Wilmington, as part of that, and got going on this journey. It started really well at the first couple of years as I was getting my feet wet, and then obviously Great Recession hit. And we, like other financial institutions, dealt with a very stressful period of time. It was a period of great learning for me because I was responsible for the commercial lending area where we had, a significant number of problem credits like everybody did. But it also forged a bond with myself, our team, and more particularly with Mark Turner, watching him lead the company through that very difficult period of time. Obviously, we got through that. Actually, we got through it better than others. And it started a period coming out of that of significant growth for the company and personal development. And as growth opportunities presented themselves, I raised my hand to get involved in some of those opportunities from a corporate development perspective. and was really learning and growing a lot and enjoying my time here when Mark, who is younger than I am, told me in 2016 or so that he was going to retire in about 5 years. And was a huge surprise to me from a couple perspectives. One, he was younger than I am. Thought I'd be the other way around, that I'd kind of ride his coattails for the rest of my career, and didn't know what that would mean for me. And all Mark said at that point was, just starting a process with the board could be good things for you. And so over the course of the next several years, worked a lot on a personal development plan, had the opportunity to take some different roles in the company as those situations evolved. And then really, I'd say in the few years leading up to stepping into this role, that's when things got a lot more structured, and had the chance to be the interim CFO. I was then the chief operating officer for 18 months before stepping into this role January 1st of 2019.
I love that story. And, I do find it a bit funny when you talk about, looking to somebody who's younger than you, and then they're telling you they're retiring and you're taking on a bigger role.
Yeah.
So, Rodger, you talked about the training program. Can you give us a little bit more detail about that?
Sure. So, like I said, Kate, it was 2 years. You rotated through different lending areas and other areas of the bank, working with senior bankers. They supplemented it with a pretty rigorous course, external course program, accounting, corporate finance, things like that. And it was a huge group of people. So there was several classes over a 2-year period, and it really created this network, which includes people that I still interact with to this day. And it was a great opportunity to learn, to grow, and develop. And as I said, really build a network of people that, were very, very impactful for my entire career.
I appreciate you bringing up the network, the peer network, but also it reminds me of the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. But that actually continues into adulthood, because as we grow our careers, there are people that come into our lives and help us as we progress. And you had mentioned Mark, and actually I watched recently the panel interview you did with Mark and Skip, and it was clearly apparent that you have a unique relationship with Mark and Skip. That is 3 generations of WSFS leaders. Can you tell us a little bit about the meaning of that unique dynamic for you, and maybe who else along the way you leaned on and learned from?
I've had the great fortune to have many, many people who took an interest in me throughout my career. A lot that I still stay in touch with. In fact, I just talked with one the other day who I've stayed in touch with for a long period of time. I think it's essential for anybody's career to find those relationships. And I've just been blessed that I've had the ones that I've had. The relationship with Skip and Mark is very unique because they're very unique individuals. And as I said, when I met with them, I saw something in them that just really resonated with me, very much aligned in terms of personal values, super smart. I knew I could learn something from them, but, at the kind of the heart of the relationships were just a common view of the world, and somebody in both cases that I knew I could learn from a lot, but also that we could get along. And there really was just this very unique culture around, living our values, having engagement with the people that we work with, and using corporate culture as a defining way to do business. And obviously it has had a very, very big impact on me. And as I was going through my transition, into this role, they were both, very, very helpful. And to this day, even though we don't talk frequently, I know both of them are there if there's something I need to talk to them about or just want to bounce something off of them. And I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, that's it's great to have that relationship, and I really do think it's special. To Kate's point, it's easy to see when you all interact and talk and are on the stage together and led this company together. One thing I always like to ask, especially somebody who's risen up, from a business line, continued to lead, and then taking over as CEO. What's a skill set or something you've had to develop over time, Rodger, that you never really expected early on in your career that you were going to have to figure out how to do that?
It's a really long list. I'll just mention a few things. Just in terms of specific skills, I never thought I would be speaking or communicating with large groups of people. So, that's something I've worked on, throughout my career, including up until now, working on my communication skills, both with large groups and smaller groups, has been something, a skill set that I would not have thought that would have to get developed as much. Learning how to delegate as a leader is a big thing, especially when you're used to kind of having your hands on everything. And probably the most important thing, which I think gets lost sometimes, is the ability to say no. I am not good at saying no, but you can't effectively be in this role without having to say no to some things, which will allow you to spend more time to focus on the things that are most important. And so I would say over time, that has been probably the biggest area of focus for me, to make sure that I'm not spreading myself too thin and in the spirit of trying to please everybody, end up pleasing nobody.
That's such a great point, and a great lesson, I think, for everybody, is how to learn how to say no. So there are a lot of ideas about what a CEO does on a daily basis. Give us a day in the life of Rodger. What do you do every day? How do you spend your time? And is there something that we might be surprised by?
So I'd say the biggest probably misconception is that I'm spending my time running the bank every day. I think it was closer to that when we were smaller, but as we've grown and gotten bigger and are in more businesses, my job is not to run the bank day to day. I have a team of people. Obviously, Jamie's part of that team, who are running the business day to day. I spend most of my time working with the team, supporting our team, meeting with clients, being the face of WSFS in the public. I have a fair amount of responsibilities outside WSFS where I'm representing WSFS in the community. And then I spend a fair amount of my time just really thinking about where we're at today and where we're headed. My biggest responsibility is to drive the strategic direction of the company. And that especially when you go through periods of time like this, where things are really busy, those are skills that are kind of hard to hone, because there's so many sources of information that you just have to really focus and allocate time just to think.
I like that you brought up the leading the strategy, because that's a little bit of what I wanted to go to next, was a little bit of the strategy that WSFS just came out of under your leadership, which included two big acquisitions, Beneficial and Bryn Mawr Trust. And one of the things around this was, I'm sure that when you go through any type of merger and you're bringing companies in and bringing cultures in and people, there's hard decisions. And I'm not going to ask you about what hard decisions there were, but yeah, how did what were some of the principles though that were like the guiding North Star on bringing these cultures and people together? And then after that, we'll hop into where we're going next as a WSFS strategy.
I think it's pretty simple. Is just to make sure that you're living your values with every decision that you're making, and being a values-based organization. Sometimes that can be challenging, but if you kind of reflect and go back to your values, I think that then people know where you're coming from. They understand, even though they might not agree with where you're coming from, and it allows you to build credibility with people. Because you're treating people the way you want to be treated. And when you do that in a very transparent and communicative way, I've just found over time that's the best way to make those decisions.
Well, and coming out of that, living our values, there's a 25 to 27 strategic plan, and you've talked about it a bit out there. What about this current plan gets you most excited about the future here?
Yeah, well, I'm very excited about the plan. I can't believe we're almost coming to the end of the first year of the plan. The plan really is a culmination of this significant period of growth that WSFS went through, which culminated with the acquisitions of Beneficial Bank and Bryn Mawr Trust in 2019 and 2021, which have really positioned us very uniquely in this greater Philadelphia and Delaware region as the only large, locally headquartered, locally focused bank and wealth management franchise to compete with the bigger banks. And as I said, if you think about where I started my career, it was a time where Philadelphia had 3 or 4 banks like that. That all went away through industry consolidation. I think the fact that we've been able to position ourselves to be that alternative to the big banks gives us an incredible opportunity to grow and feel really proud about being part of this community and this region. And so my, excitement is so much on how we can continue to grow here, impact more clients, impact more people in the community, grow our associates. That's very hard to do in, particularly in the financial services industry, when you're competing with the forces of, technology and product commoditization and other things. And we're all about service, and we're all about this region. And I get to see it when I'm out in the marketplace all the time, how valued that is to so many people in this region. And so if we can continue growing it and continuing to grow, that's the most exciting part of the plan for me.
Rodger, you've mentioned a couple of times that community is a really huge part of WSFS, and you get to spend a lot of time with local business leaders. Can you tell us what you see business owners are doing really well out there today?
So, Kate, having done this for almost 40 years, it's amazing to see how entrepreneurs and business owners have the resiliency and the entrepreneurship to figure things out. All they need to know is the rules, and they can figure things out. And I think we're going through another period of time where business owners are figuring things out. It's not the necessarily kind of the standard operating environment that people are used to. There's a lot of things happening globally and technologically right now that are impacting what's going on in the economy. But entrepreneurs just roll up their sleeves and figure things out. And that's one of the reasons I got involved in banking as a lender at the early stage of my career, because what's really always been a thrill for me is to watch how, as being a banker, you can support somebody achieving their goals and their dreams while they're supporting, their family. So businesses are rolling up their sleeves and figuring how to get things done, as they always have. And it doesn't really, whatever the external circumstances are, it never ceases to amaze me, the ability for entrepreneurs to figure things out.
Yeah, entrepreneurs, they're adaptable and they figure out how to get things done. One of the things that I was surprised about when I got here at WSFS, I think I've told you this, I know I told Art at one point, but one of the things I got wrong coming in here was I did not realize how important the community was and the community give back was to the WSFS culture and how we operate. I wanted to ask you that same question, right? Like, when did you realize how important that was going to be for WSFS? And then you helped foster some of these initiatives, including, right, our Day of Service, the WSFS Cares Foundation, and the impacts of those. But how did you realize that, this is core to who we are?
So it's really very simple. And obviously the foundation was set by Skip and Mark and has been here for a long period of time. But we do it because it's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing for the business. Because a bank is only a reflection of the communities that it serves. And we're not going to do well if our communities are not doing well. And if our communities are not doing well, then it's hard for our customers to do well. So it's just the right thing to do, just from an absolute, and it's the right thing to do for the business. And so when you think about it that way, it's really kind of goes hand in hand. Of course, we're out helping to serve and support the community because we see the benefits of that as it relates to being able to help and provide service, and in some cases provide dollars. And then we also see the benefit of when the whole community gets lifted, we're going to do better as a company. And so it's rewarding from a personal commitment standpoint, and it's very, very important, from running the bank standpoint as well.
So, Rodger, as we start to wrap up here, we always want to ask or end on a piece of advice. But I want to say this. Oftentimes, we look in the rear view to see how our life or our profession has unfolded, our career. So let's rewind for a minute and go to 25-year-old Rodger. What advice would you give him about building a career?
Expect the unexpected and be willing to take some chances. Opportunities will present themselves. And it's very hard at 25 to pick a path that is the path you're going to go on for the next 40 years or so. So find something that you like to do, get started in it. Like I got started in it. See where that takes you. You'll learn and you'll grow, and maybe you'll pivot in a different direction. But opportunities will present themselves, whether they're from good situations or challenging situations. And you should embrace those opportunities. And that's, I think, really important for people to be open to that. And if they do that over time, they will find the right thing for them.
That's great advice.
And I've got one last question from me. And so one of the things, Rodger, I always love hearing is just, what do you hope for WSFS going forward? Like WSFS and Bryn Mawr Trust, what's the big picture vision of who we're going to be?
So I want us to be, obviously, the leading provider of banking and financial / wealth management services in this region, with a long runway in front of us to continue to deliver and support and spur people achieving their goals and dreams, and including our associates. And we can do that. We can do that with our brand. We can do it with our competitive positioning. And most importantly, we can do it with a terrific group of associates that we have. It's not easy, but we can do that. And so I see so much opportunity in front of us. We are positioned based on our name around service. And service, you can't commoditize that. You can't out-technologicalize that, if that's a term. People want and value service when it comes to their money, whether they're borrowing money, investing, accumulating. They want service, and they want it with people who know this area, who they can rely on to talk to, whether they have something good to talk about or something challenging. And to be able to see that impact every day, is incredibly powerful. I say all the time when I talk to WSFS associates, our goal is that when you go home at the end of the day, whatever you've done, you can see where that connects to something bigger by just looking at our strategic plan. And I know from my own experience, and I think this is true just generally, when you work for a very, very large company that's maybe, regionally or nationally or internationally, you can achieve a lot of great things. You can work with some great people. You can have some career development. Hopefully you have some good financial success. But I always found it a challenge when I was working at larger companies, when I went home at the end of the day, how I connected into something bigger. And so then there's a void there. And we work very hard so that our people, our associates, feel like every single day they know what they're doing, how it connects to something bigger, and they can see the byproduct of that right in front of them because we all live in this community. That's incredibly rewarding, and that's really what I want for WSFS to continue for a very long period of time.
Rodger, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us here. We are so grateful. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Planning Perspectives podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform.
Thank you for listening to the Planning Perspectives podcast. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes are available. Visit our website at www.bmt.com or call us at 833-973-7633. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Investments, not a deposit, not FDIC insured, not insured by any federal government agency, not guaranteed by the bank, may go down in value.